Today I'm going to be taking a look at one of the most iconic shows from the 2000s, Ed, and Eddy. I've always had really fond memories of the show, so it should be fun to re-explore it, taking a look at 2 of the best episodes, 2 of the worst episodes, and 2 random episodes to decide, does Ed, and Eddy still hold up today? I love watching these 3 guys just go around trying to get as much Fent as possible, Fent being jawbreakers. At least they treated it like that. It was just everything you could possibly need in that silly little cul-de-sac, so I'm really excited to explore this show again and see what it actually has to offer. And if you like content just like this, please make sure to like and subscribe, because at 50k I'm going to be cosplaying as Pops from regular show and doing the Milk Challenge. And if you want a place where you can talk about your favorite games, movies, shows, all that good stuff, my Discord will be in the description. Now let's finally take a look at Ed, and Eddy. And starting us off, taking a look at one of the best episodes in the series, Brother, Can You Spare an Ed? And the thing that I noticed immediately while watching this show is this is kind of the ultimate slice of life show. You're obviously not going to be expecting the craziest plot lines ever, but it's still enjoyable nonetheless. It's just simple, good, chaotic kid fun that could keep really anybody entranced. I enjoy it for the most part. The episode starts off with typical Ed, and Eddy shenanigans, mainly Eddy shenanigans. I kind of forgot how much of a just scoundrel Eddy is. He's just kind of a menace and a monster. They're holding like a Hawaii hula dance festival. They're just dancing it up a little here, dancing it up a little there, and Ed's little sister Sarah comes over and she's all like, Ed, I need you, please go get me some fudge at the candy store, Ed. And Ed, being a good brother, he's immediately all for it. But Eddy, just upon hearing this, he's like, oh, Ed, my boy, my sweet succulent boy, you could buy a jawbreaker with that money. You could buy it right now. And so we kind of have this little like devil angel on your shoulder thing going on between Eddy and Double D, trying to convince Ed to not go and buy that jawbreaker or to buy the fudge. It's just, he doesn't know what to do. He's struggling so much. It's so hard to know what to do. Ed eventually panics. He goes into the store by himself and he can't resist. He just can't resist the fentanyl. It's too good. It's too good. I don't know, there's something about calling jawbreakers fentanyl just kind of tickles my pickle in the right way to make me laugh. So if I do that a lot in this video, I apologize. Either way, Double D is very disappointed in this. He just can't handle the fact that Ed would betray his beloved sister in such a way. Oh no. And then, God, it's just so evil. He just grabs Double D and just unhinges his jaw like a snake and just shoves it in his mouth. And the way jawbreakers look in this show is so unhinged because it like presses your cheek up like, but it like does it all the way like out to here, and then it also shows your ear being pulled out there. It just looks so off and so heinous. But Double D is like, oh, that's not good shit, man. Oh God, oh. And so even he caves, and now they're heading back, and that is when Sarah is all like, Ed, oh Ed, you spend all my money on jawbreakers. I'm gonna fucking rip you to shreds, Ed. She's very upset. And so they look to Eddy to come up with a way to get Sarah their money back. And this is when we just get a bunch of visual gags, and I still think it's very entertaining. It just kind of goes on for a very long time. But it's Eddy first torturing Double D and Ed, just being all like, anybody who wants to give him a wedgie, come here, come here. And so, excuse me. And so Kevin shows up, he gives them a wedgie.
How mortifying. One more for the Gipper, Kevin!
Great stuff. And then he puts them on a tree, and so Johnny comes over and starts beating them with plank. Just a lot of visual gags of torture, an endless amount of torture, and of course, Double D and Ed, they eventually get sick of this and they're like, Eddy, my boy, it's your time. They grab him, and then we just get to watch Eddy suffer for the end of the episode.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
It's pretty solid. Can't lie. pretty dang solid. I can't say that it's not enjoyable. There's not a single thing that I disliked about this episode, besides, you know, some parts of it being a little bit slow, but it truly is just very enjoyable slice of life comedy. You know, stuff is just playing out a little bit slow, but that's just life as a kid, you know? You're just going around doing all these things. I mean, I wasn't trying to con people out of their money, but still, I'm having a good time nonetheless. This is just great. Watching Eddy get pummeled at the end was very satisfying, as I bet I will get to see in many episodes, because I have a feeling that he is just a tyrannical monster the majority of the time. But either way, still lots of fun. If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a solid 7 out of 10. It doesn't do anything that amazing that would want me to make it any higher, but it doesn't do anything bad. It's just very solid, it's good fun, and for the most part, I was just having a great time. Taking a look at what is supposed to be one of the worst episodes in the series with a 6.0 on IMDb, we have If It Smells Like an Ed. And this is a mystery episode. Oh my god, it's a good old-fashioned whodunit. Oh lord, who doesn't love a true crime mystery? Oh, what's new, Scooby-Doo? I'm coming after you. Eddie's gonna bust all over the place. Man, you gotta love it. So this episode opens with Jimmy and a bunch of other kids in the cul-de-sac, like, celebrating Friendship Day. They're like, friends are there to help you. Oh yeah. They're just dancing and singing, and I honestly kind of was getting annoyed by the friendship song. It was pissing me off a little bit.
When you stub your toe and it hurts, you know, friends are there to help you.
But hey, all the kids seemed happy. I'm not gonna yuck on anyone's yum. They were having a decent enough time. And then Eddy's all like, oh, look at this kid, boys. And he walks over and he puts Jimmy's underwear on top of his head, giving him the ultimate wedgie. His ass is showing, and all of his friends that he was celebrating Friendship Day with, they all start laughing at him, and Jimmy's feelings are extremely hurt. At the same time, there is somebody trying to frame Ed, and Eddy, because all of a sudden, a paintbrush goes missing. All of a sudden, Plank, his mouth is wiped away, and all of a sudden, there is a hockey stick going through the float that they were all praising like a cult around. So yeah, Ed and Eddy, they seem like the main people that caused this, because they were already causing some trouble, and whoever's trying to frame them planted a little bit of evidence on them as well. So everybody's very angry at them. They walk away, and Ed and Eddy, they realize that they need to clear their names at all costs. They see a footprint over on this little sidewalk, and Ed, being the monster that he is, he just picks it up, just raw dogging it hard, and they decide that they're going to take it because there's a footprint on it and try to analyze it with the other kids in the cul-de-sac to see if it lines up with any of the kids. And for the most part, I thought the way that they were going about this was okay, not really the most hilarious thing going on. One of them was very weird though, because they go to Kevin, and Kevin is very into Naz, as most of the kids in the cul-de-sac are. They all think she's a turbo baddie, baby. She's just so goddamn fine. But the part that gets really weird for me is the way that they lure him to try to look at his shoe and analyze it, is they have a picture of Naz in a bikini, and I'm just wondering, you know, these kids are like, I don't know, they're like 10, 11, 12, I don't know. How did he get that photo of her in the bikini? It was one of the Eds. What were they doing with that at their photo? That's a little suspicious, if you ask me. That's the real crime here. How did they get that photo? But Kevin, he sees it, and he's like, is that Naz? Oh my god, she's so hot. And he straight up just starts going, oh my god, oh, for like a solid minute. But they analyze his footprint, and they see that it can't possibly be him. Okay, good enough. They start going around doing a bunch of other kids. They're chasing down Ralph at one point, but Ralph hides, which leads to the suspicion that it was Ralph the entire time. And when I was watching this episode, I genuinely thought that it was him. They go to Jimmy also, and Jimmy is playing hockey, so they assume it's him, but Jimmy has a good alibi, so it isn't Jimmy. Or so we think. But I do like this scene that happens with Jimmy, because Ed is carrying the sidewalk, just this big old block of concrete, and he accidentally drops it on his feet.
Let Ed try those.
I just thought that entire scenario was really funny. And so eventually they find Johnny, and he's just covered in this candy, and it makes it look like Ed and Eddy were the ones who kidnapped him, and so now they have to try to find who has this candy, and they start chasing it through the forest while everybody's hunting down Ed and Eddy. And I really like this one scene where they're chasing it down, and they go over a log, and Ed, who's eating all of the candy, he sees the log and just eats the fucking log.
Try this.
Why? Why did you eat the log, big man? I mean, I know you like candy, but come on. He just tanks that shit, and they eventually get all the way into this shed, and they hide, and they eventually get interrupted by the Canker sisters, these dirty little stinky whores who just want to unconsensually do things to Ed and Eddy constantly. If these degenerate women were around in the big old 2-5, the big old 2025, they would be canceled for this unconsensual garbage. They're using my boys up. And so, yeah, they start trying to use them, and they get eventually, like, taped to this fence, and that is when Jimmy reveals that it was him the entire time. And in his sweet little voice, he's like, "Oh, yeah, I just wanted a little bit of vengeance, because, you guys really messed me up, you wedgied me super hard." And he explains how he did everything. That part of the episode is fine. It's just the classic, like, "Oh, and then I did this, you never saw this coming." And then it ends with Ed and Eddy getting dragged away by the Canker sisters, probably to have horrible, unconsensual things happen to them. But either way, what can you do? What can you do? This episode was decent. It was kind of all over the place, but the thing that I like about it the most is that it was a genuine mystery, and they actually subverted my expectations on multiple occasions because I actually thought it was going to be Ralph. I really did. But then they were all like, "Oh, Jimmy gave Ralph a bunch of candy to, lead you in the other direction," and that worked. The classic whodunit, bro. The whodunit. I had no idea who done it. Obviously, I could have assumed it was Jimmy because Jimmy was the one who was dealing with the fact that he got embarrassed in front of all of his friends, which would point to him right away. But at the same time, they gave him an alibi. So I was like, there's no way Jimmy can do it. Either way, it was a lot of fun. I had a decent time. I don't really see why this is one of the worst episodes in the series. There's really nothing that I could pinpoint that really makes it bad. Maybe, I don't know, people were just like, "Why is it 22 minutes? I want to watch 2 episodes of Ed and Eddy and not 1. That's genuinely the only reason why I could think anybody would be upset at this episode. If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. It was fun, They did a whole lot of stuff in this episode. It gave me a couple of laughs. The mystery actually felt mysteryful. That's not the right word, but does it matter? Not really. Not really at all. It was fun. I had a lot of fun with this one. So yeah, 8 out of 10. Taking a look at another one of the best episodes in the series with a 8.5 on IMDb, we have the episode The Day Ed Stood Still. And oh no, bro, Ed is going to become a giant monster. He just wants to be a monster so bad, bro. I don't know. I just enjoy the way Ed's mind works. He's a little bit dumb. You can't lie. Ed is a little bit stupid. So at the beginning of this episode, they're just hosting this carnival thing because Eddie's trying to get money once again. And Ed, he sees a monster on a portrait and he's like, "Eddy, I want to be the monster. Let me be the monster, Eddy, please." And so he really, really wants to be the monster, and Double D, understanding that this could potentially make them some money, he decides to build Ed a actual monster costume. And Eddie's just sitting there staring at Ed, just being like, "Yeah, we can make money out of this somehow." Double D leaves for a second, and then all of a sudden you hear Ed just being like, "Yeah, yeah." He just starts freaking out, and then he just attacks Eddy and just leaves him in a bloody pulp just on the ground for no apparent reason.
I am a monster!
Because Ed is all like, "I'm going to be the best monster. I'm going to be the best monster." It's very random, but I still enjoy it nonetheless. And the episode just keeps getting crazier and crazier from there, because we get to watch Ed, who's in this giant monster costume, just go around and basically traumatize people. He's genuinely kidnapping people, eating people, just everybody in the cul-de-sac. He is being a malicious monster. He's really living up to his name. And I'd say it's enjoyable for the most part. They kind of do this like tension build-up type thing before we actually get to see Ed in his monster costume, where we just get to see like his tail or him kidnapping somebody, but we never actually get to fully see him. We either get to hear it or just enjoy it from the sidelines. So hey, I'm still having a dandy old time though. You know, I like my tension getting built up just a little bit. And so eventually it's just down to Eddy, Double D, Naz, and Ralph, and they all go up to hide in this treehouse. Wonderful. And they see Ed, and we actually get to see his full monster form, which is actually pretty cool. I don't know how he's just making this colossal monster just move around with his big old Ed body. I don't really understand it. I don't understand half the things Ed is able to do. Maybe it's just the power of being fucking stupid, but whatever. Hey man, keep going. And this one scene was really funny because Ralph, like, he just with no hesitance, he just grabs Naz, just picks her up, and is like, we must sacrifice her.
The sacrifice! Put me down, you jerk! Hold it!
And that obviously doesn't work because Ed just knocks the treehouse down, and then we get to watch Ralph just get eaten alive. Very enjoyable. But then it, in a way, it kind of gets creepy because it's just down to Eddy and Double D, and they eventually go down into Ed's basement, and he's just doing his monster thing. But dear lord, if you've seen that episode of Adventure Time where it's the deer, and he like licks people and put them to the ceiling, Ed and Eddy did that first, and I didn't know that, because he's just been eating cereal, spits it all over the kids in the cul-de-sac, and then just sticks them to the wall. What the hell, man? What kind of a monster are you? I guess that would be pretty malicious and monsterly of you to do, but dear lord. And what I do enjoy about the ending of this episode is that there's really no conflict resolution, and that's something I feel like they do quite frequently. It just kind of ends because Ed and Eddy, they just realize that, oh no, we're gonna be in big trouble, boys, and they just go and hide under the bed. And that's pretty much the end of the episode. I would have loved for them to get off, or maybe, I don't know, grab some pitchfork. Grab your pitchforks! Fuck, what's Shrek? You know, grab your torch and pitchfork! Sorry, I needed the Shrek to overtake my soul and my body. I was kind of hoping that all the kids would get a little bit of revenge, but them hiding in their bed, that was fine. That was a fine ending. It was okay. It was decent. This episode was really good. I enjoyed it for the most part. Just having the thought that Ed is the one just in this giant monster costume, hunting people down, eating them. It's very odd, and that shit that he did at the end where he was putting people on the wall covered in cereal, that was really weird, but also really creepy. I don't know what made him think like that. I wonder what goes on in the mind of Ed. Is it just, jawbreaker, I want to be a monster. Either way, pretty entertaining. If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it, again, a solid 7. I don't think it does anything that amazing that makes me want to rate it any higher, but still, nothing bad about the episode. I was entertained the entire time. It's just overall good fun. The next episode that is supposedly one of the worst in the series with a 6.0 on IMDb is Smile for an Ed. And this episode is all about good old-fashioned school picture day. Yippee! And Eddy just needs to look super good for one photo, and he could get his big brother's room. Very exciting for him, and I really like the introduction of this episode. I think it's great, with Eddy just grabbing Johnny's skull, pulling him back because he's bald, and just using his baldness as a mirror. Can you imagine someone doing that? Can you imagine if you had a bald kid in your school for not really sad reasons? You just had a bald kid not for the sad reasons, and somebody just grabbed him and was using him as a mirror, maybe even cleaned him off a little bit? That would just be absurd to see. And we get to watch everybody do their school pictures. I think some of it's a bit more funny than others, like Ralph putting a flour bag over his head. I thought that was interesting, to say the least. And eventually, Eddy goes up there. He's looking fresh. He's looking clean. He's looking ready for a photo. He's got I Heart Mom flag. He's ready for everything. And then Kevin decides to be a dirty, stinky dick and ruins the photo. Eddy looks like garbage, he looks like trash, and he tells Double D that he can't have this photo, he needs his big brother's room, please, oh please. And so Double D gets the idea to just go to his house or wherever, or the photography class, yes, that's correct. Decides to go there so that Double D could just retake the photo. And Eddy, he tries to get rid of his photo, but it accidentally ends up in the hands of stupid fucking Kevin. Kevin, K-Dog, that malicious bastard. He takes it and he prints it and gives it to the entire school. And so now the entire school is just treating Eddy like his little hobgoblin monster. And yes, does Eddy look like he's gonna be my precious? Oh, yes, my precious. Oh, baby, oh, give it to me dirty. Yeah, that's exactly how Eddy looks. He looks very disheveled and decrepit. He kind of looks like a rotting old man or a rotting thumb. I don't know why he looks like that. I would love to see him in his adulthood because if he looks like that now, I don't see it getting better. But either way, he doesn't look very good. But for everybody to acknowledge the fact that he looks horrendous, it just kind of sucks, you know? He is the one character that does deserve it, but still, man, oh man, it's just rough. So eventually, he's about to take another picture with Double D, and Kevin, he ruins that shit again! He messes it up again! And you know what? Kevin, you menace, you bully, you dirty, stinky asshole. I hope that it's canonical what happens to you in the Meat Canyon video.
Existence is behind you now, Kevin. Enjoy the silence.
Yeah. That dark, decrepit thing that has never left my mind ever since I saw it because it was purely horrifying and ruined a beloved classic a little bit. I hope it actually happens to Kevin. Oh yes, revenge tastes sweet, or whatever Eddy says in that video where after he rips off his jaw. Yeah, it's pretty malicious, but either way, Kevin's acted like he deserves it. At least that's what I think. And eventually Eddy goes to the cafeteria thinking that, oh, things are gonna get a little bit better, you know? He's just trying to get all the photos back. He sees everybody just wearing his face, the picture of his face with eye holes cut out. They're all laughing at him. He gets dragged under the table. It's the redhead woman who likes to unconsensually do things to him, and she's wearing his face and goes like, mwah, mwah. Why are you kissing yourself? So not only is Eddy screaming for help while everybody laughs at his unconsensual just usage of his body, he also has to see his decrepit looking face. Man cannot catch a break. It's very unfortunate. Like, I don't really like Eddy in the sense of, you know, moral standards. Like, is he a good person? No. But does anybody deserve this nonsense? Also no. But it does have a bit of a happy ending with a drawn picture of Eddy being used. Eddy runs away happily and gives it to his mom, and I think it all works out for him. So wonderful, but it doesn't take away from the fact that Eddy just purely suffered this episode. That's probably why it has a lower rating, because people aren't too, you know, enjoying of torture episodes, people getting tormented. But for the most part, I was having a really good time. I can't even lie. I thought the shenanigans were really crazy. All the stuff they were doing to Eddy was really crazy, but it was undoubtedly really funny as well. So if I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a solid, you know, 7 out of 10. Made me laugh a couple of times. There's nothing bad about it. It's just good old-fashioned Eddy torture, and when the majority of the episodes that I have watched so far is Eddy being a bad person, well, then it's pretty dang enjoyable, so I'm all for it. Heading over to the random category with a 7.4 on IMDb, we have the episode Honor Thy Ed. And this episode's very interesting. It's very down to earth, but I still enjoyed it a lot. The episode opens with Ed and Eddy trying to make fake tacos to sell to people, and Double D just guzzles a big old thing of hot sauce, and he doesn't react initially, so they all guzzle it, and they just get a little bit hot, a little bit heated, a little bit spicy. So, just a fun opening that doesn't necessarily pertain to the plot. I enjoyed it nonetheless. And eventually they see this house and Kevin dares them to go in it, deeming that it's just horrifying, it's awful, and Eddy, he doesn't want to do this initially. But Kevin's all like, yeah, how about some French, baby? You want some Jawbreaker? And Eddy's like, oh boy, going in there for a jawbreaker, that'll be a piece of pie. And so Ed and Eddy, they all go in there. Nothing's going wrong initially. They're just faking like somebody's attacking them and hurting them brutally. And eventually they actually do get stuck in the house and they fall backwards. They fall all the way into the basement and all the other kids leave thinking that it's just one big prank. And that is when things start to go a little bit awry for them. And, it kind of like plays on everything that Ed and Eddy like. For example, Ed, he's a big guy. He's a big guy, got a big appetite. You know the things that he likes. He gets subdued by some cereal. He goes up like this laundry shaft because he's like, oh boy, cereal. Oh yes. And so Ed disappears. And then we see Double D following these books up a staircase. And eventually he disappears as well. And Eddy, he just starts getting dragged underneath a staircase, like a staircase starts eating him.
Where's the room going? Where am I going? Help! The staircase is eating me!
That was pretty wild to watch. And eventually he starts trying to escape because he sees a piggy bank. He grabs onto it and all of them end up in barrels. These barrels start going on like this roller coaster thing. It's pretty wild. It kind of gives me like Coraline vibes. It was very interesting. And eventually, it just ends with them ending up seeing the Canker sisters once again. Yes, the unconsensual bitches have returned. And they're like, oh, hey there, boys. Oh, you're looking so handsome. We're all gonna get married now. So, yeah, the boys get married. And now they're just dating some good old-fashioned white trash. And the episode just ends there. They're being used as a carriage, like as carriage horses to carry the women. It says just married on the back. Isn't that just lovely? Gotta love some domestic abuse in my children's cartoon, you know? Really gets you hyped. This is probably how Cooties started. Somebody watched this episode and they were like, oh, I don't want a woman to do that to me, bro. Oh no. That's how I could imagine it happening. But either way, this episode was fun. It was very slice of life. Nothing too crazy happened. Like the first 7 minutes of it are genuinely just Ed and Eddy like pounding on the house trying to geek everybody out and trying to make a quick buck. It's just decent. And then I did enjoy watching all three of them just go on these crazy adventures, end up in the barrels, go on that roller coaster, and then, you know, unconsensual things happened. But what can I say? It's kind of funny. So if I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give this one a 6 out of 10. There's nothing really bad about it per se, but it just doesn't get me as excited as the other episodes I've watched so far have. It just kind of feels like there's a lot of stuff in the middle of this episode that could have been taken out or could have been used to do something a little bit more different. I don't know, it just feels really slow to me, but it's still fun nonetheless. A 6 out of 10 is not bad. The final episode that I'm going to be taking a look at with a 7.4 on IMDb is the episode Scrambled Ed, and this one opens with Double D just being a little bit sleepy. He's eepy, he just can't stay awake because he was working on this wooden bridge for like 14 hours, and he falls asleep. Eddy bursts into his room and is like, Double D, I have an idea for Ed's Sea Ranch. It's like an aquarium, bro. Oh, you gotta help me. And he just starts trying to maliciously wake up Double D, like using tape to tape up all of his eyes.
Hello, Double D. Now that I got your attention.
He just can't wake him up, though. I actually enjoyed the beginning of this episode a lot, and he eventually takes Double D out to this field and uses Sleepy Double D for advice and builds like this giant sign that says Ed's Sea Ranch, but he's just listening to Sleepy Double D, so it doesn't necessarily work out quite right and falls and collapses into this river. That is not good for later. No, no, no. And so eventually everybody needs help from Double D. They all start using and abusing this poor sleeping man. Like, genuinely. There is one scene in this episode after they all ask him for advice and Double D is just trying to catch a wink that 4 of them are grabbing each part of his limbs and like medieval torturing him like with a stretch rack, just being like, oh, Double D, help me. Just pulling his body and Double D's just like, oh. As he's literally getting ripped to shreds.
Leave Double D alone! He's ours!
He's sick! Give me him!
That was pretty interesting, pretty wild. But either way, the sack is about to flood because that river was guarded, it was slammed, so it's going to flood, and it eventually just bursts everywhere. Just water literally everywhere, and it just shows a bunch of our characters just all on mattresses or different rafts or whatever they could possibly use. And this episode ended really abruptly. Yes, there was a lot of visual comedy in this episode where, like, I don't know, Ralph had lobsters on his body and he had to run away from the lobsters and was like, Mother, is the boil ready? Like, stuff like that, which was pretty entertaining. But this episode ended so abruptly where I was expecting everybody to attack Eddy or Double D or anybody for flooding the cul-de-sac, but no, the episode just ends with Ed just being like, just flopping out of the water like a big old fish.
It is I, Neptune!
Like, what? And Eddie's just like, oh, he could have just been the aquarium show, huh? I guess, man. I don't know. What kind of an ending is that? I mean, I'm not complaining because I thought it was funny. I just feel like the conflict wasn't really resolved there, or there wasn't a conflict necessarily. Either way, pretty entertaining episode. It was kind of a bit slow for me, and all the like swapping of Double D, that was good, but not really my biggest cup of tea, you know? If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a solid 6. There's really nothing bad about the episode. I just was kind of left wanting more. If this was an episode that had a 22-minute special, I feel like it would have been a lot more fleshed out, because it feels like when Ed is flopping around in his big old fish body, I was expecting that to be like just a little joke, and then it was about to get to something a little bit more serious with everybody being like, there's Eddy, get him, he did this, and then I don't know, they start waterboarding him and the Canker sisters start unconsensually doing stuff to him again. I don't know, it just kind of felt like it was going there, and then it didn't, and it's just but either way, still very entertaining for what we did get, so 6 out of 10, still pretty decent. Does Ed, Edd and Eddy still hold up today? In my personal opinion, after watching these 6 episodes, seeing the worst, seeing the random, and seeing the best, I would have to say that Ed, Edd and Eddy does still hold up today. I think it's a phenomenal slice of life show. Going into it, if you're expecting the greatest story, the greatest animation, you're not gonna get that, but it still is really fun, especially for a cartoon. If you just want to turn your brain off and just let yourself get dissolved by Eddy's shenanigans, or watching Eddy suffer, or just watching really any of these characters do whatever, they're all very distinct in their own way, I think you'll have a lot of fun. It is a phenomenal slice of life show where you could watch characters and their bodies just go like this. I didn't mention it, but it kind of bothered me. Well, on the first episode, I got used to it eventually, but I forgot that all the characters, they're constantly moving. It's like they all have Parkinson's or something. They're just constantly like, It's weird that they decided to draw them like that. I don't know what the reason is. Maybe it's just to give the show its own identity. Any artists or animators, if you could explain why all the characters go like this constantly, I would love to know. But either way, lots of fun. The show is a great slice of life, and I had a great time, and I hope to revisit the show again in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe. I make content almost every single day. It's fun. I do silly impressions and make jokes sometimes and review stuff. It's fun. All right. See you later.